So lads, today the referees gave the report on the situation, and it's even worse. It's even worse than I imagined, and it was pretty grim.
The WNBA. Referees recently made public their official. An analysis of the Connecticut Sun. Catastrophe, and it's somehow worse. More than we believed their justifications for. Aiming for Caitlin Clark while defending. Her assailants are so absurd that fans are going crazy. This report demonstrates all that we suspected of corruptly serving as an official in the league.
Why was JC Sheldon's foul upgraded to flagrant one? In the judgment of the officials, the foul by Sheldon was unnecessary. The contact to Clark's face. Furthermore, there was a wind-up and impact, and the contact to face carries potential for injury. How did you come to the conclusion that that is a flagrant one? How did you come up to the conclusion that it was unnecessary? There was a wind-up, and it was to the face. The three of them that is a flagrant 2. By definition, you have described a flagrant 2.
What makes JC Sheldon's friend? The flag is great in the opinion of. The officials said that Sheldon's foul was. The communication with Caitlin is not necessary. The face of Clark. Additionally, there was wind-up and impact, and face-to-face interaction carries possibility of harm. How did you arrive at determining that that is a blatant? First, how did you arrive at the conclusion that it wasn't required? A wind-up occurred, and it was to the three of them have a face that is. By definition, you have flagrant 2. Described a tooth that was obscene after observing. Do you find the referees' pitiful excuses? Believe the WNBA is making a conscious effort to interfere with Caitlin Clark's official. Report from the Connecticut Sun about referees. The game against the Indiana Fever just ended, as well as to inform you that it's the most damning evidence we've. Have you ever witnessed dishonest WNBA officiating? These referees did more than just perform poorly. They revealed themselves as fully prejudiced towards Caitlin Clark, but protecting the players at the same time. Who attacked her? Allow me to explain. Complete farce of a report because each and every, with just one explanation, the officiating, appear worse than it did before the referees basically acknowledged. Fans have been yelling about everything, while in some way believing their justifications seem to make logic. Observing a confession to a crime, while first claiming their innocence. Let's discuss their justification for the reason behind JCS Sheldon's eye-gouging assault on. Only a flagrant 1 was used to describe Clark, rather than the evident flagrant 2 and expulsion. The referee should have claimed that Sheldon's foul was needless with ultimately cause a blow to Clark's face that has the potential to cause harm. Interpret that once more slowly, as they just described. 2 flagrants from a textbook while describing why it was deemed a flagrant 1.
Unnecessary contact. Wind up and unnecessary. The 2 of those can be a flagrant 2. And face. You have described why was it a flagrant 2. You have just described a flagrant 2 as your answer for why it was upgraded to a flagrant 1. You have just described the flagrant.
What constitutes a flagrant 2? Comprises superfluous contact, wind-up, and possibility of the referees getting hurt. Listed each of the 3 components in their justification for not creating a. The second flagrant is similar to saying someone killed someone while stating the reason. You accused them solely of jaywalking. The total absence of reason in their reasoning reveals how predestined their choice was. What aggravates me even more about this is that Sheldon's assault was unrelated with basketball. Clark was using her left hand to dribble. Sheldon scratched her right eye, and the ball was far from the point of collision. Happened. This wasn't a coincidence. Collision while playing basketball was an intentional attempt to harm the league's biggest celebrity, but inexplicably the referees have recently managed to reduce it Let's look at their pitiful justification. Why wasn't Marina Maberry expelled? Following a dash across the court to the corpse, Clark should be checked to the ground during a dead. The referees stated that Mabry's the level of contact did not increase to an expulsion and failed to fulfill the requirements for egregious punishment, which appears to be assault. Doesn't count as long when a ball is dead, since it goes against Caitlin Clark's. The Maberry incident was very clear, outrageous that even casual admirers were requesting immediate ejection. She had nothing to do with basketball, close to Clark, let alone checking her physique. It was straightforward retribution to the ground, intended to frighten and possibly hurt, yet these dishonest people claim. Referees, that's just traditional basketball. These references are not a part of the profile from. Here is the report for the 4 and 6 clients. Becomes completely absurd they somehow managed to provide Caitlin Clark with a technical infraction for responding in a unsportsmanlike behavior following. Checked the body and clawed in the eye. Ground, allow me to get this straight. Being attacked and then keeping your wounded eye while attempting to escape your attacker's actions are not sportsmanlike. What was she expected to do in that circumstance? The referees effectively punished Clark for experiencing assault. She sustained a scratch to her eye and abdomen. Sheldon knocked into him, and then he was blindsided by Mabry, clutching her injured eye. Apparently, crime was not taking this abuse that is sufficiently silent for the referees, preferring its victim-blaming approach. Tina Charles is the most ridiculous extreme. The explanation for the technical foul was similarly strange, in the opinion of the referees. Charles rushed towards Caitlin's direction in an disrespectful way, so pointing at someone and moving towards them now constitutes unsportsmanlike behavior, clawing but deserving of a technical foul. Checking someone's body and eye too, it's just standard basketball on the court. Contact, the double standard is so clearly it is offensive to Sophie. The rationale for Cunningham flagrant 2 was, it was the only one that made sense. Unfortunately showed how incorrect all the other calls in which they stated her contact was superfluous and exaggerated, which it. Sophie definitely grabbed Sheldon around the throat as payback for what had been performed on Clark. The distinction is that Sophie's behavior was truly referred to as suitably, even though the original attacks were reduced, which is quite devastating over this entire sequence, which the referees acknowledged. They claimed to have lost control of the game. The reason the situation worsened was because they neglected to address the previous occurrences appropriately, but rather than taking accountability for their shortcomings, they discovered ways to place the blame on everyone but the players who were the ones that initiated the issues with Lindsay Allen's dismissal for she was caught making a joke about fighting in the altercation after Sophie left, following Sheldon, but her participation was little in comparison to what others had accomplished. Somehow, during the game, she got expelled as Mabry, the perpetrator of the most heinous attack, was still in the game. The selective enforcement was Coach Stephanie's ridiculously clear. White's response to this circumstance in the news conference held after the game was flawless when reporters attempted to elicit Clark's thoughts on the White, the officiating official, took over and took. She shielded herself from the interrogation. Top player without needing to traverse the criticizing referees is a political minefield, while emphasizing that the white people's officiating was awful. Remarks regarding the referees were terrible since they were sent with tactful professionalism while being utterly damning. She stated the officials were aware since the first quarter that things were becoming unmanageable, but they were unable to keep the situation under control. They were basically accused of being incompetent, while preserving deniability. The harshest aspect of White's remarks occurred when she discussed how everyone in the league is improving, with the exception of. She complimented the players and the officials for having more strength, speed, and more athletic than previously, then casually said the referees haven't kept up. As the game progressed, it was the strategy of White's diplomatic destruction was exceptional since she developed the league and participants while separating the refs as the issue that she refrained from attacking the WNBA as a whole or disparage it. She clarified for other teams that the officiating expertise was the only problem. It hinders the league's ability to write off her worries as prejudiced. Grievances about the reality that each coach in the league has voiced its displeasure over. Officiating demonstrates that this isn't only an issue with Indiana Fever when there's. Everyone agrees that the referees are. If not, it becomes impossible to dismiss. Termed bitterness or team-specific prejudice, the issue is systemic and readily apparent too. Everyone's participation is what makes this. What makes the situation even more annoying is that it was entirely avoidable if the Sheldon was just disqualified by the referees after she attacked with eye gouging, but none of there would have been more drama. Cunningham, Sophie, would not have experienced the must strike back, and the game might have carried on incident-free instead. Their inability to provide suitable punishment. A problem was created by the initial assault. When participants felt compelled to police themselves, Sophie basically carried out the ref's work for them by elucidating that assaulting Clark would have repercussions. She took one for the group. When the authorities wouldn't provide protection, the trend of their star player, watching Clark's games all the way through. Her second season has continuously troublesome. She is frequently struck by interaction that could lead to a flagrant other players' fouls, while her responses to being attacked in some way warrant two technical fouls. So well established that its turn become a predictable global consequences of this officiating. Moreover, calamity cannot be disregarded. Globally, basketball fans are observing how the WNBA handles its largest. What they're witnessing is a star. It's awkward when your authorities are blatantly prejudiced against your most marketable player. It harms the league's reputation around the world. The social response of the media to this referee report has been largely unfavorable for the WNBA. The reasons are being openly ridiculed by fans and pointing out the blatant prejudice when your officiating turns into a joke. It influences how legitimate people think. Competitive outcomes. What's especially glaring over this entire circumstance is how Clark's ability to portray her is impacted. Natural game, even though she is aware that she won't receive equitable treatment from officials, she must change her strategy to prevent circumstances in which she could be harmed. That lowers the standard of basketball for observing the precedents. Everyone settings for next games is concerning if players are aware that they can go after Clark without suffering grave repercussions, whereas everyone who stands up for her gets ejected. A hazardous dynamic is created. In essence, the referees have painted a target on Clark's back during the process of her defense of the business consequences of this bias in officiating are astounding. The main attraction in women's millions of people watch basketball. Spectators and arenas that are sold out when referees generate circumstances that might harm her or interfere with her ability to execute. They're taking the biggest risk in the league. Valuable asset. The reality that this occurred during a nationally broadcast game makes casual fans tuning even worse.
Can you specifically detail what you mean by get control of the game, just to be in your words?
Get control of the game is call the fouls that are actually happening on the floor. Right, and consistently call the fouls that are actually happening on the floor. Okay, not just if somebody swings and misses, right? Like, consistently call the fouls.
In to observe Clark's reaction to her, attacked as the referees disciplined her for being a victim, which isn't precisely the type of product that creates enduring audience devotion to the referee. This game's staff should deal with significant repercussions for how they handled this circumstances. Their official report basically acknowledges a number of shortcomings while attempting